G'day and welcome to the Pursuit of Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Rosie Burrows, and I'm on a journey to find my freedom so that I can help you do exactly the same. Join me each week as I share the stories of everyday people who have found their own paths to freedom. I'm not going to focus on job titles and accolades because I don't care about that stuff, and neither should you. I want to uncover what truly makes you tick. Who are you when you step away from society's expectations and follow your heart? I still haven't figured it out yet. Have you? Either way, buckle up because it's going to be one hell of a ride. Welcome back to the Pursuit of Freedom podcast. Joining us today is Dr. Vasu Tolia. Dr. Vasu transitioned from a successful medical career as a researcher and paediatrician to now pursuing art and finding healing and purpose through creativity. So we're going to be doing a deep dive into career and life transitions, the power of creativity and finding purpose in unexpected places. So if you're going through a big change at the moment or considering a big change or beginning to explore your creativity, you're going to love this episode. So Dr. Vasu, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Rosie, for having me. It's my pleasure and honor to be with you.
Yeah, I can't wait to dive into this. I want to start a little bit with your background because I don't know if it's just me, but going from a more traditional sort of career like in research and medicine to creativity, in my mind, that's almost like opposite ends of the spectrum. So how on earth did that happen?
It really happened when I was thinking of stepping away from medical career. But to be honest with you, I have been creative throughout because even to think of research projects and ideas and to execute them and to give them to your mentees and fellows and things like that requires continued creativity. But in the direction of the art, it happened, or rather I shifted it into this gear after I decided to slow down and step away from medical career.
You mentioned the creativity or the creative aspect in the medical profession. Can you tell me some more? Because I think a lot of people, they go, oh, I'm not creative, or they assume that their role isn't creative.
It's really a perception of mind or your mindset as to how you think of yourselves. But everybody is creating something all the time. Even when you're cooking and producing a meal, you're creating. Just to give you a generic example, and I'm sure in your listeners, personal careers or professional careers also, they are constantly doing something like even making lists to keep yourself more organized is being creative in my mind. So creativity can be in simple things. It doesn't have to be just sitting in front of canvas or a piano and think of music. So I think everyone must feel creative in their minds and then take it in the direction they want to.
Yes. I want to go a bit deeper on that and hear your thoughts. You've touched on this already, but what exactly is creativity? Because a lot of people, you just mentioned it, sitting in front of a canvas, those traditional things that we see and are taught, drawing, painting, creating. But your definition feels a little bit different. So tell me more.
I think it's a very broad and generic definition because, as you know, creativity can be in so many fields. It can be in science, arts, literature. Everywhere, you go, people develop new theories and do studies and all that. They are all being creative. But to me, creative means doing something new and different that you have either adapted from or learned from somewhere else and molded into your particular kind of creativity, or it is something that's just coming de novo, out of nowhere, that you felt like doing this and started to work on it. Because obviously, nothing gets created in a moment. It takes
Yeah.
time. It
Right.
takes time to plant the seed and think along it and letting it grow. But those are the small steps that lead towards doing something new and different that I would define as creativity.
I like that, that view on creativity. I'd love to know what drew you to creativity. Was it a natural pull or was it something that you had to consciously do?
If it doesn't come naturally to you, I think you have to teach yourself to do it if you want to do it.
Mm,
To some people, it is innate, like just happens naturally that they're able to do things. But for others, you may have to cultivate that kind of a habit or trend um, if you feel you want to be that way.
mm. So, do you think creativity is something we all need more of in our life? Because you just said there, if we want to.
Yes, definitely. Um, creativity is something is we all have, and
Mm,
how we use it, it's up to us. But I think when you do something like that and engage more than one of your senses to make or do something, then you activate the prefrontal cortex in the brain, from where the healthy neurotransmitters go into inside of the brain into what is called limbic system, and they stimulate further release of dopamine, which is also a healthy neurotransmitter, and suppress cortisol, which increases the stress level. So whether you are gardening, cooking, sewing, knitting, dancing, creating visual art, or writing, I'm just naming a few of the creative projects that I can think of, but I'm sure
mm.
there are many more beyond that. That will you know bring out these healthy reactions in your mind, and you will feel them as decreasing the level of stress. So I feel that everybody must practice it in some way, whatever way
Mm.
they feel good about it.
Yeah. And I love how you just use science to help explain or back up in a way what you've just said. Because I was going to ask you if there's still an interest in medicine. And I get a feeling there still is based on the answer you just gave. So, do you think medicine and art go well together? Like how does that work?
I think of them as parallels because I
Mm,
don't think I am what I am today without having had that medical background.
yeah.
But when it came to, choosing a second career, it was a challenge. Like,
Mm,
you are stepping away from a well-established uh, profession in which you have a name and a career for yourself, and to being a nobody, in the field of visual art, um, to start from scratch and establish yourself, not knowing how successful you may be without having gone through this experiment. Um,
mm,
so it's like taking a risk in
yeah.
in a career thing. Not only that, you also face self doubts because you have
Mm,
done this before. Then that leads to an internal conflict. Um, then you have external invalidation from others saying, oh my God, you're going to stop being a doctor and want to do art?
Yeah,
Why on
yeah.
earth would you want to do that? So those kinds of things that you have to get over. And it takes some courage and a lot of time, because
Mm.
success in art to me didn't come overnight.
Mm.
I did it for 5, 6 years before I started even entering competitions and winning awards.
Mm.
And so it was a gradual process, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
Freed myself from the confines of traditional teachings.
Yeah. How did you push through all of the self-doubt and the fears at the beginning?
In the beginning, it was very tough
Mm.
because although I took a few lessons, um, I wasn't very happy doing just representational art.
Mm.
But then I wanted to do something more, and having had no art degree, I started to teach myself. So I'm basically self taught through YouTubes and taking workshops and those kinds of educational modalities. So I really don't follow traditional rules of composition and things like that you are taught in the art world.
Mm.
So having that creative freedom has really allowed me to evolve myself. Um, my medical background provided a different kind of discipline, but then I was
Mm.
used to looking for hidden signs and symptoms, or from observing the behavior of the patients and parents and things like that. So I started to apply them into making art, and that has influenced my artistic choices or artistic outcomes in unexpected ways.
Mm. So, how has your life changed since embracing your creativity?
It has changed that I'm not that on the go all the time,
Mm.
because when I was a full tenured professor and doing, rolling all the balls of educator, teacher, mentor, and clinician, I was devoting like almost 12-hour days to my work.
Wow.
And even on the weekends, it didn't stop. But this way, I'm more calm, more relaxed. I do it at my own pace, but I
Mm-hmm.
do make it a point of trying to do it every day if I can, because
Mm.
the schedule and ongoing practice is what is going to make you better. We all know
Mm.
them.
Mm. Mm.
I do that rather than follow any other rigid guidelines. And I love to go and see art of others and in museums and exhibitions, because you learn a lot from other artists. And many
Mm-hmm.
times you may want to adopt a style or a way one artist worked. And if you want to incorporate in your own, you can experiment with it, and it will turn out as something quite different from what you saw, but it will still be a new twist on what you wanted to do.
Mm. Yeah. And I'm curious, how has it affected your perception of who you are, like your self identity? Was that a big shift going from, medical career, you're doing 12-hour days, to all of a sudden just adding something? Well, I'm not sure. Do you think the creativity replaced what you were doing before, or was it an and situation? It was something you added.
No, I think it was a consequence of the way I chose to transition.
Mm.
Excuse me. So the pivotal moment came for me when I did my first solo show. which was called Woman's Journey, in which I had 24 paintings of women in different roles.
Wow.
For me, it was more than just an artistic milestone. It was a declaration of identity, to be honest with you. I was not just dabbling in art, I was claiming my space as an artist.
Yeah.
That's what it made me feel. And the title itself, The Woman's Journey, was deeply personal to me because it reflects that not just women's narratives, but my own transformation. And that was the moment when I proved to myself and the world that being a physician and an artist were not mutually exclusive. I could be both. Because I
Yes.
dabble in medicine a little bit. I don't see patients, but I do consult.
Yeah.
And that point I felt to myself internally, I proved to myself that my art was going to be more than just a hobby.
Yes. And so your version of success and creativity, you've mentioned things like entering the art show, and that was a really pivotal moment. It sounds very important to you. Do you think that's something that everybody needs to do on their journey of creativity? Do they need to enter the art show or win awards in order to be successful?
No, but it depends on what your internal push is.
Yeah, okay.
I know artists who practice art because it must be giving their pleasure, but they have no desire to enter shows or competitions and things like that. They are just happy doing it more as a hobby than anything else. If you want to be more than a hobbyist and have other missions with it, then I think you have to prove yourself to the world, be recognized, so that others will respect you in a different way. Not just like after decades of being known as Dr. Tolia the physician, stepping into the art world required an internal shift.
Yeah.
Initially, I had approached it as a creative outlet, but over time, the depth of emotional expression in my work has proved that it was something more. I call it a calling now.
Yeah.
That I felt that I needed to do something more. And the contrast between internal doubts and external reactions from what others are thinking and influencing your judgment is something that you have to overcome. Without doing that, without that perspective, you just keep on reinforcing the doubts
Yeah.
and defeat your purpose. So I chose to redefine my success on my own terms.
Yeah.
And validation of my work, especially through awards and other recognitions, have helped me bridge that internal conflict in a very
It sounds like quite a healing process. Would
very
you
much
agree with that? Yeah.
totally.
Mm.
And it took me time to discover about this healing
Okay.
because when I stepped away from medicine, my mind was obviously in a turmoil. But it took me years to get that calmness after getting in a zone with painting, where I forget about how much time is and responsibilities of everyday life and things like that. And that's when I realized that my mother, in the latter part of her life, used to draw with colored pencils a lot. And I used to think, why is mom sitting and doing this? And she used to pass hours doing that. Um, and it happened because once my children grew up, or my other nieces and nephews grew up when she visited all of us, she had to pass time because the kids were not there to, play and pass time with her anymore as they grew up. Um, and in retrospect, I realized that that was her art therapy for herself. That, he was just feeling so happy passing her time doing that, that she was forgetting about all the other things that she would miss.
Mm. How would you suggest to other people, like if you lent into your creativity at a time there was a lot of stress and you were going through change, if someone is in a similar situation, it'll be different, but if they're experiencing a lot of stress or doubt in where they're going in life, pondering a big decision, how might they use art and creativity to help them through that?
I think they have to cultivate this evolution of freedom because they have to give themselves permission to think of wanting to do something different and to think about it. And initially, it may not be one thing that appeals to them unless they know for sure that this is what I want to do. They may have to try a few different things and then decide this is what I'm going to settle on. So it's a process of discovery. And when you find it, I'm sure when one finds it, they find comfort.
Yes.
They will start feeling pretty good and positive about wanting to be able to do it. So, depending on what stage of your career you are, you have to really decide whether you can just let go of the previous career and just do this. But then we all know that to be able to make such a change, you need to have economic freedom. So
Yeah.
that depending on your bread and butter. Because initially there is not going to be any, gains from these kind of thing. It's just going to be expenses of spending, getting supplies and doing this and learning and paying for the workshops and all that. I'm just giving
Right.
my personal example, but
Right.
I
Right.
think it would apply to anyone's new choices. And before going in that direction more, um, they really have to know that's what they want to do. And that's why, people always say that if you want to become an artist, always keep your daytime job.
True. Yep. The saying of the poor artist is, yeah, has some truth to it, right?
Yeah.
What do you have to say to people who say and believe they're not creative?
I think it's a mindset. Um, I know many people say I can't even draw a line. When
Wow.
very simple. Even if you can't draw a straight line, you can go draw a curved line or a twisted line or whatever you want to.
Mm.
But you have to try it, provided that's what you want to do. And like I was telling you, creativity comes in many ways, not just in visual art. There are so many other forms of creativity. So whatever gels with them, I think they have to keep an open mind and try and do it. So many cooking shows and things, cropping up. Every time you turn your head, there is some kind of a new show or art form or singing or dancing and so many other forms of creativity that people do. So I'm sure there is something there for everybody. And it's there for them to find and discover.
Yeah, there's not necessarily a fixed path, is there?
No, absolutely not. It's different for different people.
Yeah.
Like, for my husband, it's golf.
Mm. Mm.
So, uh, I mean, that's his passion in life, that he wants to decrease his handicap. And
Yeah.
for me, is to just create more and more art and get better at it.
Mm. Mm. You've mentioned a couple of times that these beliefs come from our mindset around whether we're creative or not. And I'd love to know your take of where does this mindset come from? Is it all internal? Are we influenced by society? Is it a combination of both?
I would say it's a combination of both. because to defy traditions takes a lot of courage.
Mm.
And we have always, kind of awarded ourselves, by having a steady job and
Mm.
profitable career and things like that. I'm telling you, when I was growing up in India, most of the people who were good in the studies either became engineers or doctors. Very few
Mm.
went in other careers. And when you come over here, people have so many more choices. Now I'm talking about 50 years back. But
Mm. Mm.
over here, there are so many other choices. So sometimes not having a focus is also an issue. Because if
Mm.
you keep on fleeting from one project to another or one kind of career to another, you don't settle into anything. So I think you have to have an internal focus, a drive to want to be something and do something, and get help from the external resources, which could be family, friends, even community and society, and try and be what you want to be.
Mm. Trying to be what you want to be.
Yes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You mentioned earlier you refer to your art and creativity as your calling now.
Yes.
So do you think art has helped you find your purpose? Or is it your purpose?
No, it has really helped me find a purpose in the sense that it has given me freedom to give back, like making an impact on the society also.
Mm.
It has helped me evolve a philanthropic vision
Okay.
because now I have some missions like women's empowerment and protecting the planet and helping medical research and things like that. So I have connected with a few of these kinds of organizations. Um, so the customers, at my website can select which one they want to contribute to, and I can give a portion of my sales to the charity that gels with them. And I think that helps me combine my passion with a purpose. And
Mm.
I feel very good about it. And it motivates me more and more because I would like to raise more and more funds for them after meeting my expenses. And
Mm.
and if I can, generate more sales and things like that, I would increase my proportion to them even more because there is, a huge satisfaction in doing that, in helping others. And I feel that when people choose my art or choose to buy it, they are not just beautifying their space, they are giving back to community and helping the world become a better place.
Mm. It sounds like what you're doing is very aligned with how you want to show up in the world, which I think is beautiful. I'm not sure everybody gets to that place.
Well, I think we all have to try and
Right.
focus on our
Try.
purposes in life.
Yeah. And has making decisions become easier now that you're clearer on your purpose and that you're living in that purpose? Does it make life easier in any way?
Not really. I think you have to keep on working at it
Yeah.
because right now my purpose through podcasts like this and all is not only talking about the story of reinvention and second career, etc., but also to spread the message to the world about how art can benefit us, to deal with stress. And again, I will re emphasize whatever kind of art that appeals to the people, and for
Mm.
everyone it's different, but it does definitely help you heal from whatever stress is. You don't have to have a post-traumatic stress disorder or something severe like that. Even from day-to-day stresses, if you practice some sort of exercise meaningfully, it will help you focus better.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. That really resonates with me. I think it's so true. For me, my creative outlet at the moment is my podcast, which some people might not consider creative, but for me it is, and it just feels good, and it helps me stay clear and present and feel like I'm doing something that is worthwhile.
I think having a podcast is a very creative thing because you have to solicit people with different ideas and passions and present them to your audience because the purpose of your podcast is to help others by stimulating and inspiring them. So I feel it's a great thing that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. I totally agree. I think you're right. Now, Vasu, I want to ask you a question that I ask every single guest on this podcast, and I am curious what your answer is going to be to this.
Okay.
So what does freedom mean to you?
Freedom means to me to be able to do what I want to be, what I want to do, and be what I want to be. And whatever my purpose is in life, to achieve it and to be able to achieve it and be happy about doing that. So this is not like being in bondage or behind a prison cell or something like that, because many times internally we are prisoners of our own minds and beliefs and traditions. So if it comes to breaking bounds and choosing or changing from a profitable career to something you feel more passionate and happy about, that's freedom. So so I think, and it can come at different stages in people's lives. And if they are happy doing whatever they are doing, they don't have to change or do anything, but try and just be better and better, whatever appeals to them. But I think to be able to do and to achieve what you want to achieve is, to me, freedom. What do you think? How do you define freedom?
How dare you ask me? It's such an abstract concept to me, and I need to go back and listen to the episodes on the few occasions guests have turned this question to me, because I think it changes every time. But I know there must be a common thread here. And in my opinion, freedom is more so a feeling, when I'm feeling aligned. And it's, what does alignment feel like? To me, it's when I feel content. And yes, there's stresses. Yes, life is still difficult. It's not going to get rid of any of that. But it just feels right. So, for example, living in my van, I can't explain to you why, but it feels right. I feel very grounded. And to me, that is freedom. And it allows me location freedom. But I don't think that's necessarily what I'm referring to when I say freedom. It's just a feeling. And it's going to change throughout my life how that freedom looks.
Yes, I think we all evolve as time passes and our emotions evolve, our beliefs and concepts evolve. So it's like a moving target. Like you said, it's very
Yes.
abstract. But like you define it a certain way, I define it a certain way. But in all, it's what gives us the letting us be what we want to be.
Yes, letting us be what we want to be. I think what can scare people is it can be messy and it's unknown.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there are risks that you're taking, and it takes a lot of courage to do that.
And one key message that's really stood out to me from this conversation is there's no one way to embrace your creativity. And there's not one way that it looks. It could be doing painting and drawing, but it could be like your husband and playing golf. It could be like me and doing a podcast. It might be, I don't know, meditation, spending time in nature. So I think trying different things is a great way to find what works for you.
Absolutely.
So I encourage our listeners, go and explore. Go have an adventure. Try some different things. Wasu, did it take you a while to land on art? Did you try
It
some
did.
different things? Yeah.
It did. And initially, I felt like an imposter that, I was not good enough. Uh, because when I went to the shows and I saw other people winning prizes and mine didn't and all. But then I was not realizing that I may be chapter 1 of my journey and they were at chapter 15. They had been doing it for a while, but and perception of art is very personal and subjective. There are no strict guidelines and criteria by which one evaluates art. It's something like a gut feeling. Um, One juror in a show may reject my piece, and if I submit the same piece to another exhibition, I may get an award. So it's something about on this during this journey not to give up and feel disheartened also, and accept some of these negative outcomes as they come, because not everything in life goes as we want to plan.
So
And
true.
and so you have to brace yourself to accept some of these failures. And if there are more positives than negatives, then you must be doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no strict criteria for what the right thing is, which I think goes against what we're taught in school and sometimes how we're brought up with our family. In
Yes.
school, it's very much this is the right answer and anything else is wrong. It's quite rare to find a class or a teacher that encourages creative thinking.
Yes.
How do you think we encourage and influence society to embrace creativity more?
I I believe that creativity is a universal human need. Everyone must practice it and do it in a certain way or whatever way appeals to them, like trying to find their path, whether it's in single career or dual career or sequential careers, who knows? They have to find it themselves. Breaking free of the mold and be feeling courageous about being able to do it, and balance the internal conflicts and the external inputs, even if they are negative, is another way. Then evolution of freedom is by shifting the pressure from doing everything at once to embracing the idea of having choices over time to execute, so that you don't over push yourself, that you become so stressed and more negative outcomes come. And that's where I feel that I have found a niche of healing through art. So I've just changed my perspective from healing by medicine to healing through art, because
Yes.
I have firsthand experienced it, observed it, and it shapes my philosophy um, about this concept, and I just want to tell the whole world about it.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. I'd love to know if any of these insights or discoveries you've made along your creative journey have surprised you, or were you expecting art to be so healing?
When I started, I didn't. I really didn't know about art therapy, although it exists from 1940s. As I'm doing more and more research into healing with art and all that, because I'm trying to position myself in such a way that maybe I can conduct some research into it, working with a neuroscientist.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm so thankful to you for having this opportunity to tell your audience that positioning oneself by actively designing their own freedom, professionally, creatively, philanthropically. They can navigate identity shifts, break traditions and conventions, and build a mission-driven creativity practice that is as impactful as it is fulfilling.
I need to go back and replay that bit. I think it's so, so powerful. You said actively creating your freedom. We're playing a very active role. It's not just going to fall on your lap. At least in my opinion, it's not. You need to actively pursue that.
You have to work towards it.
Yeah, yeah,
As you and I, we have both found out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Wasu, thank you so much for this conversation. It's been really beautiful to hear your journey on this. And it surprised me how you've managed to bridge the gap between medicine and art. Or perhaps there wasn't such a gap in at all. Really? I hadn't considered that.
I'm so glad you asked that question. But to be honest with you, like I told you, that I think I had some creativity in me from the beginning, but it was more focused towards the science of research than anything else. But I feel that having, this empathy for people, which is really a must for every physician, helped me mold my artistic practice more. So I really feel very grateful to have had this second chance and to mold my healing practice from medicine into art. And
Yeah.
I just feel great about it.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's really cool, honestly. And again, thank you for this conversation. I can't wait to hear people's thoughts on this episode. Maybe they won't find it as surprising as me. I don't know, but I think it's been fabulous. So thank you for giving me a fresh perspective. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to the episode. Please go share it with someone you love. Leave me a rating and review if you haven't already. And please hit the follow button. Less than 10% of you are actually following the podcast. So just tap the follow button. It really helps push the podcast out to more people so we can have more impact, which at the end of the day is what I want to do. Also, you can check out the full archive of episodes, see the show notes and the full transcriptions at my Fancy Pants website, thepursuitoffreedom.com.au. And don't forget, you matter. You're worth it and you are so, so capable. I'll see you next week.